Sure. Good evening, everyone. If we would please rise for Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence afterwards. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yep. On my right. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 19th regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. If I could have roll call from my right tonight, we'll switch it up.
Jim Quish.
Tom Panzella.
Tom Nickel.
Rick Verone. Carl S. Moore.
John Grant.
Nancy Austin.
I'm new at this. Brian Collegian.
Mike Dolan.
And I'm Board Chair Scott Marlowe, and we're joined by Meg Green and David Sulkis. First item of business is the Chair's report. There's a couple items that we'd like to take care of. First, I'd like to welcome Brian Collegian to the board. He's serving as a new board member, so be easy on him. And another item of business is I would like to see if we could amend the agenda or add an item to the agenda. And you have a new agenda in front of you, and the item would be 75 Hillside Avenue. And I know some information was sent out, and I'd like a motion to add that to the agenda. Mr. Barone.
I make a motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we will add that item to the agenda. The other item of business under the Chair's report, as we're all aware, Mr. Sutton has stepped down from Planning and Zoning Board, and he was the Vice Chair for this term. We will be looking to replace the Vice Chair's position first. Just a brief background on this, as what had happened this past year is that the board elected and decided to split the chairmanship, 1 year for Republican, 1 year for Democrat. The Democrat served, Mr. Sutton served the first year. I am serving the second year, and the person who was the chair became the vice chair. So we will be looking to replace that position with someone from the Democrat Party. And I would entertain a motion or nominations.
I'd like to nominate Jim Quish.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Quish, you can take your seat right here. And congratulations, thank you. I think. So first item of business under new business, D is item 1, 8-24 review for acquisition of a 10-acre portion of 1125 Ornoak Road on map 61, block 935, lot 4. Mr. Sulkis, is there anyone that's going to explain this or go over this?
Oh, I see Public Works Director Saley making his way toward the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Saley.
Good evening, everyone. So this is a piece of parcel that's adjacent to our transfer station on Ornoak Road. But to give you a little background, FEMA and Deep has made some requirements in regards to a bulk storage area after a major event. We used to store things at Eisenhower Park, and that was going on for many, many years, but that's no longer allowed. And in order to be FEMA compliant, we have to have a designated area to store materials after a storm or event or anything that would cause us to have bulky waste. It's adjacent to our transfer station, so it gives us a great opportunity to be able to scale things, weigh it, and store it, and then quantify it. It's a great spot, and we're asking for your approval.
Are there, Mr. Solkis, any comments?
The proposal is from the city, so I would hope that the board would support it.
Are there questions from the board? Mr. Saley, just a quick question. The bulky waste is just trees and that sort of items, or there's nothing else that's going to be?
It could be anything, white goods, trees, green waste, building materials, anything that comes together with it. And one of the things we're going to be in the process of doing is once we do this, we're going to use it as our goal is to use it as a storage area for some of the pond dredging we're going to do and reprocess that materials. We're going to go up an RFP, request for proposals, to have a company come in and give us some quotes or some proposals on what the best use of the property is. And we're going to share that land, so it's going to offset some of the costs associated with the acquisition of the land.
Is there any special erosion or anything, controls that have to be put in place and maintained for this?
We would have to follow our MS4 and our stormwater. We would be involved with Mary Rose and make sure we get all the not necessary documents that we would need.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, Mr. Nichols?
Yeah, does that, you mentioned Mary Rose, has she looked at this and approved this area for that use at this point, or is this still up in the air?
We've spoken with Mary Rose and her department previously. Last year when the storm was coming up our way, the property owner gave us the opportunity to use it if we needed to as a precaution. The storm went out to sea, so we didn't need it, but she's aware of it, and we're in the process of working with her to get her approvals.
Will there be a building put on there to recycle some of this stuff, or just leave it the way it is?
I believe that eventually they'll have some buildings on there to do some recycling, yes.
Other questions from board members? Mr. Barone.
You mentioned that just about anything is going to be stored there or stored there. You're not going to have any hazardous waste there.
Well, I'm not an expert on it, but when you're taking bulky waste out of a street, it could be any mixture of anything, but it's an acceptable use in that area. And we would follow all the requirements that we would need to make sure that we wouldn't have any other issues with the environment.
Other questions from the board? Mr. Solkis, just as a reference, what we're doing is we're just approving this to move on to the Board of Aldermen, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Nichols.
I'll make a motion to approve, as it's stated, the 824 review for acquisition of a 10-acre portion of 1125 Orinoco Road.
I'll second. Is there a second?
Mr. Grant. Are there any questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Saley. Next item is the item that we added to the agenda, item 2, 75 Hillside Avenue, Zone R-5, petition of Gernot Bruckner for a coastal management site plan review approval to construct a single-family residence on map 49, block 724, parcel 6, of which Philip and Valerie Marcari are the owners.
Yes,
good
evening, Chairman, board, members of the board. My name is Rick Raymond. I'm a project manager with Anthony Giordano's in West Haven. I'm here tonight with the developer, Gernot Bruckner, and the owner, Philip McCarney. We're seeking a CAM approval for 75 Hillside Avenue. It's located in an R5 zone, and it abuts the Long Island Sound on the east side. The lot is 6,078 square feet, and the east side is located in the VE13 zone. The existing house was demolished about 2.5 months ago. It was approximately 1,849 square feet. The new house will be 2,253 square feet. The building area of the house itself has increased by 6%, but the lot coverage itself has decreased by 10%. We've worked with the engineer and we put drainage on the north and south sides of the house with a 2x2 stone, pipe and stone drainage apparatus. Camera report states that there's no impacts or any adverse impacts within the coastal resources. We've built it to meet the FEMA regulations for the VE13 zone. Part of the approval is we will replace all the sidewalks and curbing and replace, and add a new concrete apron, for the engineer's condition of approval. It's a pretty cut and dry. We're just rebuilding a house that's been damaged over, a couple storms, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sulkus.
Just to let you know, the application appears to be zoning compliant, and if approved, you should condition it on the items and conditions as listed by the city engineer, Greg Podlowski, in his memo to me dated September 15th of this year.
Thank you. Are there questions from board members? Mr. Grant.
I have a question for Mr. Sulkus. Is this application incomplete because we don't have drawings? Is this application incomplete because we don't have drawings for the structure itself, showing that it meets the height requirements?
Weren't they handed out? Weren't they? They were handed out to you.
Yeah, John, the minimum bottom elevation of the main structural member is 17 for the elevation.
Give us 1 second just to take a look at that. Are there other questions from board members? Mr. Sulkus, just a quick question, and maybe are the new sidewalks and apron and such, are they reflected on the plan?
Yes, it's called out to meet the town specifications.
Okay.
Cities, that's, yep. And those are tough to read, 11 by 17s. You can't read those.
Mr. Sulkus, I'm assuming that, I know Mr. Grant wants to take a second to review this, but obviously the height requirements have been reviewed?
My understanding is Mr. Harris had reviewed this for zoning compliance. For some reason I don't have his report in here, but it was supposed to have been compliant before it was circulated to the city engineer.
All right, thank you.
My question is answered.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the board? All right, seeing none, this is not a public hearing, so I would entertain a motion for action on this item. Mr. Grant.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Mr. Nichols. Is there any questions on the motion, Mr. Dolan.
Do we need to condition the motion on, or in the motion, do we need to say that it's conditioned upon the recommendations in the city engineer's report?
Mr. Solkis, would that be proper, or is it because it's part of the CAM report that it would be written into it?
Normally, we would just add it to the letter that goes out. You can condition your motion. It doesn't hurt.
All right. Mr. Grant, would you like to rescind, and Mr. Nichols?
Amend the motion to, for approval based on the recommendations and approval from the city engineer.
Mr. Nichols?
I'll second that also.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? All right. Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next item is a public hearing. It's item E, 50 Broad Street, Unit 31 MCDD, petition of Ryan McConnell for a special permit and site plan review for a game cafe on map 54, block 402, parcel 18, of which Amour Square LLC is the owner. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ryan McConnell. I'm the owner of the proposed board game cafe. Just a very quick review of what the use of the space is going to be. Board Game Cafe is a relatively new kind of establishment. There are actually only 2 other ones in the state. The idea is that it's actually an entertainment establishment more than it is a cafe. That just seems to be the kind of name that is stuck for the general type of business. The business actually kind of functions like a bowling alley. When you would go to a bowling alley, you would pay for your lane, you'd go, you'd bowl, and then there's usually a snack bar of some kind at a bowling alley. The same thing applies here. People would enter, pay for a table, and then we will have a basically movie theater type snack bar of finger foods for people to enjoy. This would range from things like popcorn, chips, and salsa on the low end to cookies, baked goods, and up to cold sandwiches. We have already presented this to obviously zoning, but also to the health department, who has given us their conditional letter of approval, as well as the fire marshal. So that is the general use of the space. To give you kind of a context, is where that spot specifically is. If you know where a Colony Grill is, and then on the other side, Park Lane Deli, there's a row of business fronts going back towards the main municipal lot there. We are one of the ones on that side of the building going back. That does mean we are right on top of that parking lot. What's kind of nice from our point of view is that the other businesses adjacent to us are all daytime professional businesses, whereas we will not open until 3 in the afternoon. Our prime hours really starting around 7 o'clock to 7:30 at night. So we do not directly conflict with our direct neighbors for parking, which I know is always an issue downtown. That's kind of the bird's eye view. I'm happy to answer any and all questions the board may have.
Thank you. Mr. Solkis.
The application is here because it's a special permit. If you move to approve this evening, as part of that approval, you should also be approving parking adequacy at that site, because the total number of parking spaces required for all the uses in that building are, at this moment, 130 spaces. There are 75 spaces on site. Having said that, this site is unusual in downtown because it has 75 parking spaces. So it probably wouldn't negatively impact anything to approve the parking adequacy.
Thank you, Mr. Solkis. Are there questions from the board? Mr. Nichols.
Yeah, what are your hours of operation?
Sure. On weekdays, Monday we'll be closed on Mondays. Tuesday through Thursday will be 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Friday as well, sorry. And then Saturdays and Sundays we're looking tentatively at 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. that may change on Sunday evenings, skewing earlier if we find that business on a Sunday night is not adequate to stay open until 11 p.m.
Other questions?
I'm sorry, did you say 3 p.m., 3 to 11?
That's correct.
Okay.
Other questions from the board? Yes, Mr. Penn.
Any alcohol being served at this establishment?
So we are going to allow it to be BYOB after 7 p.m. We are going to have some adult events in the evening, those being things like trivia nights and open game nights for people who don't have a group that wants to play with them so they can come and meet other individuals who want to play. This is something we will card for very heavily, and we will not be allowing hard liquor. So if someone brings a bottle of wine or a reasonable amount of beer, that we would allow that.
And the board should also be aware that the space is not large enough to actually qualify for a liquor permit under our zoning regulations.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, you had a question? Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from the board? Is there an age limit to this?
No, actually we do have, if you guys have the drawings in front of you, you'll see in the front corner of the building there's actually a sectioned off section. We will be providing special space and special age appropriate games for young children starting at the age of 2, and there's no obviously upper age limit. We are actually hoping to attract a family-oriented atmosphere, especially during early hours. The idea being that it would provide a space for families to bring young children downtown and actually have them be able to have fun and play while their parents enjoy a cup of coffee or food.
Not that I'm a gamer, but just curious, how long does typically a session, whatever you want to call it, last? I mean, do they, for hours, or is it? Yeah,
absolutely. So no, I estimate the average length of stay will be between an hour and 90 minutes. That could skew less. Some games are over as quickly as 10 to 15 minutes. Some sessions will be multi-hour sessions. We do plan to hold tournaments. We already have established Saturday afternoons as a time for a children's card game for the Pokemon series, if you have children or if you yourselves are fans. And that will probably be a 2 to 3 hour event. Most people will not be there for the full 3 hours, but we will be doing it so there could be people for that amount of time.
If you have an event such as that, is there a concern with how many, obviously there's a concern how many people can be in that are actually watching this event. Would that be a concern of any sort?
Think of it as the equivalent of having a special party at one of the local restaurants. If people are having birthday parties or family gatherings, it would be, I think, similar to that, just on a basis that you'll know the time.
Okay.
Just to add to that, the fire marshal's review approved us with a maximum occupancy of 45 people. That seems to be, in my estimation, a rare event unless my wildest dreams are fulfilled. Our average, occupancy will probably be between 10 and 20 people. The largest I can imagine would be if we have a children's event, that the number of children then doubled because they'd have a parent with them, might bring us a little higher.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the board? Mr. Barone.
There's 2 restaurants there that share that parking lot. Mm-hmm. That have extended hours during the time that you'll be in operation. Mm-hmm. Have you spoken to them about the impact on the lot and how they feel about that?
So I have not spoken to the owners of Colony Grill. I have, however, spoken to the owner of Citrus, the one that would be adjacent and down a few storefronts, technically the next building over. They are actually happy to see us come. They actually, we had a pre-opening event back in the 3rd week of August that they hosted for us in their event room. So I believe the gentleman's name is Kenny. I don't remember his last name off the top of my head, but he and I have spoken a couple of times. He's interested in us coming in and does not seem to have any worries that he has expressed to me.
Evidently now there's 3. How about Archie Moore's? Have you talked with them?
I have not talked to Archie Moore's, no, I'm sorry.
The board should keep in mind that Citrus is part of the same property that this is, so the parking calculations that I talked about earlier include Citrus. The other restaurants border a municipal lot. It's not their lot, it's the entire city's lot. So it's not dedicated to those restaurants or any businesses in particular.
Thank you. Are there other questions from board members? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, so at this time, I would invite anyone who is in favor of this project to come, approach the podium, state your name and address, address your comments to the board, and if you would limit your comments to about 3 minutes. So anyone in favor? Okay, seeing none, at this time I would ask anyone that is opposed to this. Again, if you would approach the podium, state your name and address, address your comments to the board, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Anyone opposed? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And is there a motion from the board for action?
Mr. Chair, if the board does a motion in the affirmative, could you include in that motion a finding of parking adequacy?
Okay, is there a motion from the board? Mr. Dolan.
Make a motion to approve the project with a finding of parking adequacy.
Is there a second? Second. Yes, Mr. Panzella. Is there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing that was left open for 553 West Avenue, Zone DO-25 petition of Grillo Services, LLC for a special permit and site plan review for residential development per CGS Section 8-30G on map 42, block 335, parcel 1, of which Kingdom Life Church, LLC is the owner. As I have, because of my affiliation with the church, I am going to step and recuse myself from discussion on this, and our new vice chair, Mr. Krish, will take over.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. Again, for the record, Thomas Lynch, representing the applicants on this matter, Grillo Services, LLC. My clients, Michael and LJ Grillo, are here with me tonight. Tonight is the third public hearing on this matter. If memory serves me correctly, at the last public hearing, it was left open specifically for receipt of a potentially amended review of this project from the Milford Police Department Traffic Division. And I see that Sergeant Kraniak and Patrolman Hemperly are here tonight. We are in receipt, and I know that all of you are as well, of an amended memo that was submitted to the board from the Traffic Division of the Police Department. I won't go into details of it. I don't know if, again, Sergeant Kraniak is going to address that or not, but the report speaks for itself. There were at least 3 objections in the March 2017 review of this project that had been raised by the Traffic Division. It ultimately went to the Police Commission for a denial. And with amended plans showing a access road, as we all know, to the rear portion of the property that was supplied as a result of the review from the fire marshal, as well as a meeting that was held on site with Patrolman Hemperly and Sergeant Kraniak and Chris Yanis of Tig & Bond, our design engineers. They went over sightline measurements as well as discussed off-site improvements. We had proposed in our traffic report signage and an additional turn lane on Schoolhouse Road. The Traffic Division report, again, speaks for itself. The first 2 items that I had mentioned, the sight lines and the access road that had raised concern,
from these two gentlemen who had done the traffic review was satisfactorily met with the revisions that we had to the plan. Their third conclusion was that a traffic signal at the off-ramps off of Interstate 95 on Schoolhouse Road would be desired and would improve the traffic situation, and we accept those recommendations. So that some substance of that is that this public hearing was held open for submission of that revised report. You now have it. I believe I stated for the record at the last public hearing that we had concluded our presentation to you. There was one other administrative item that had remained. Mr. Griffith had issued a memorandum with regard to concerns as to measurement of water going into the floodplain as a result of the construction of this project. And there's a number of emails that went back and forth between Fred Mesha and Greg Podlusky, our city engineer. Again, they are part of your packet and part of the file that is now part of the record. And basically, plans were amended to show how the measurements called for under our zoning regulations would be addressed. And Greg had issued a final memorandum to you on September 13, saying that he was satisfied with the response that he received from Mr. Mesha to those concerns and conditioned his approval of this project, obviously upon further review of this, which is necessary by the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So with that, we stand by the presentation that we made to you. Again, it was left open for the police report. You have it. I don't know if you need any further comment or if the gentlemen from the police department are going to speak to you, but that concludes our comments to you. Thank you.
Mr. Solkis, is that your recollection that the only item open was traffic, or did we say we were going to hire a traffic expert?
We had a discussion about the traffic expert, and that's actually why Sergeant Kraniak is here, because he's going to, I think, inform you as to the traffic experts that the city and the state had hired to study this. And us hiring a separate traffic expert probably would not result in anything different than what's already currently in the works or has been done. But the sergeant is here to answer your questions.
So I would invite you up to speak, Officer Kraniak.
Thank you. Sergeant Kraniak from the Traffic Division, if you have some questions. You guys, I don't know what your specific questions are going to be.
Yeah, he's here to answer questions, so if the board has any questions for him, please.
I thought he was going to give a presentation of what the report showed.
Sergeant, first, let me thank you for your service and what you do for Milford. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
In your opinion, from what you have studied, can you give me a general idea of what the impact of the additional traffic will have on the rush hour times where we see traffic backed up the Schoolhouse Road exit onto the Turnpike and onto 95, and traffic coming down over the bridge there going out to the Post Road, traffic that's backed up there along the side of Wendy's all the way down the hill there?
Are you asking specifically about predictions about what the impact could be coming out?
Yeah, what do you
there?
think, from your professional opinion, how will the additional traffic impact the already congested area?
Without any improvements, it would negatively impact that road there, on Schoolhouse Road and Subway at that side. Going over the bridge and coming into or exiting from the highway.
And what is your opinion, if the improvements are in place, how that will impact that traffic?
It would significantly improve that area altogether anyways. With the addition of that development, it would, without the traffic control signal, it would negatively impact it. With the traffic control signal, it would help it considerably anyways, along with the addition.
Any other questions?
Tom Nickel, I attended the meeting with the police commission. Okay, Lieutenant was there, addressed several issues regarding upcoming sites that you guys are reviewing. So I have some specific questions on your review of this application. Number one, as I pointed out last meeting, I believe, I'm mostly interested in 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., 2:30 in the afternoon to 6:30 at night, West Avenue to US 1, Bick Drive or Subway to US 1, and the reverse operation there, getting onto 95 on both of those entrances, going north, going south. Was your study done during those times?
We use data from the state for vehicular volumes that show that the peak hours are approximately a little after 6. They're about between 7, and they go up for about 2 hours or so if my memory is good. They go a little bit down through 4 or 5 in the afternoon where they peak a little bit more for about 2 hours, and they drop again at that point.
Does the state have to approve this traffic light that you guys are suggesting?
Yes, they do. It would go through the state as well as the Office of the State Traffic Administration for that.
Okay, not to take away from this subject, but while I was there, I understand that you guys are doing the best you can with what you have, and that you're really understaffed. And from what the chief said, a lot of officers in the field were being pulled off of their duty to do dispatching type work. Did that affect your traffic study?
No, it didn't. I don't believe it did.
You don't believe it?
I don't believe it did.
Okay.
I don't know if I can speak to that. Yeah, I can answer that question. I can answer that. The traffic division is run by Lieutenant Chill and myself. I'm the direct supervisor for 4 patrolmen who work directly under me. 3 of them work days, 1 works evenings. They don't have any impact on what the patrol division does for their staffing and man hours for their actual calls for duty, calls for service, staffing the comm room. Those jobs are filled by the patrol division solely. Unless one of our guys works an overtime job, we generally don't help out with that issue. It's the 5 of us with the lieutenant, but we're at capacity for what we use for our department, for the traffic division.
For this particular application, I imagine you guys shared information with the applicant on the study, and if you have any information on the traffic volumes from the state, is that readily available to the board?
It is. That's what we used.
Just to go back to my original question, I'd like to kind of rephrase this a little bit.
Yeah, you don't have to ask the question again. I forgot.
My question was, with the study that you did, in your professional opinion, what would be the impact of the additional car or the additional cars that would then be out on the road? And I believe that you stated as long as the traffic light was there, it would be better. Without the traffic light, it would negatively impact, but with the traffic light, it would be better.
We did an independent study kind of along the same time for a traffic control signal unrelated to the project that we're talking about. The traffic control signal is warranted anyways, based on volumes, accidents, all the stuff that we've looked at. If you were to add more traffic, it would obviously negatively impact the area anyways. The improvements could potentially make the area a lot more desirable and a lot more traffic friendly. That's what the goal of the traffic control signal would do anyways. predicting that for the future for the volumes that we're going to get out of there or potentially get out of there would be very helpful to have the traffic control signals there, and that's what the condition was for the commissioners and the chief.
Okay, so let me see if I can continue with this the best I can. I'll try to give you an example. If we had 500 cars a day, and that is kind of a lot of traffic, let's say, and we put a light there, it helps that traffic to flow better.
Correct.
If we add 500 more cars to that, it will negatively impact that without the traffic light. So if we put a traffic light there, it will improve conditions, but will it still be negatively affected because of the additional cars? I still don't think I'm making myself clear.
No, I understand that. So with traffic control signals and the
additional,
project,
is it going to be better than it is now, or is it still going to be worse, even though it's a little bit more controllable?
I think it'll be a lot more controlled. I think overall the whole area will benefit from the traffic control signals. That was a recommendation for that independent study. Coincidentally, with this plan, will it add to the congestion of that intersection with the traffic control signal? Absolutely it will. It kind of goes hand in hand. More cars, more volumes, probably more congestion. The traffic control signals will help ease out traffic, in my opinion, both ways, going toward Route 1 as well as towards West Avenue.
Okay, so then if I understand this correctly, then we're going to add more traffic. We'll put a light there, which will help control that traffic. But overall, there's still going to be more traffic. Obviously.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mr. Grant?
My question is actually for the traffic engineer.
Are there further questions for Officer Kraniak?
No? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grant?
I have a question for the traffic engineer. At the September 5th meeting, it was mentioned that in order to achieve the sight lines, that the vegetation in the city's right-of-way would have to be removed. And my question is, has anybody approached the city to receive permission to do that? Has that been secured, that vegetation can be removed off the city property?
Well, first of all, most of the shrubbery that would need to be cut down is on the property itself, and if there's a wild weed growing up that's on town property, you would wait till site plan approval and go and have that as a condition of approval, and then you do that. I mean, I don't. If you're asking, do we have permission to cut wild weeds down now? No. We don't think we need that because it's mostly on our property.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Mr. Sulkus, are we inviting the public to speak at this point? Is the hearing still open?
Yeah, I mean, if they would like to address the traffic issues, this is the third public hearing, so there hasn't really been any new information other than what was presented this evening. So I would just ask you to instruct the public to, if they can, keep their comments to the newest material that has been presented, or if they have not testified in the past and they want to say something, then they'd be welcome to.
So then the public hearing is still open, and if anyone would like to address the information that was brought forth today, excuse me.
I'm sorry. Quick question for staff. I know in the last meeting I also brought up the notion of having more information from the Sewer Commission. I'm not sure if that's been addressed or if they sent anything in regards to having us make a well-informed decision in regards to the sewer issues.
The Sewer Commission approved this project.
I understand that, but we're trying to make more more of an analysis than just a sign off or a rubber stamp? Is there more? It seems like there's more to it than what they signed off on.
When
It's just like, for instance, the police commission also signed off on it, but they're here today. So why hasn't the sewer commission also added some more?
The sewer commission has a formula that they use when they evaluate an application that goes before them. They also have public meetings. They're just like you, that are open to the public.
And that holds the same thing for the police commission. So
Right.
but they're here today. So I'm not sure why. And the request for more additional information for the sewer commission, we haven't got received.
Well, let me ask, what more information would you like? You talked about transparency at the last meeting, but there wasn't any specific question that I can recall that you wanted from them. Again, they follow a formula that's applied to all applications, and you either meet the formula or you don't. And in the applicant's case, they met the formula. And the issue that was brought up by the association, which had to do with pump station odors, the sewer commission is the one who informed me that was because of improper hookups of the newest units, and those improper hookups were for the leader pipes and the gutter systems, which were going into the sanitary sewer system, which is not supposed to occur. So the builder for that complex, or the association, I'm not sure who, has to rectify that situation, which I'm told will go a long way to alleviating the odor issue.
I'm still not satisfied, but I guess I'll stop from here.
Mr. Chair, can I elaborate on that?
Go ahead.
For Mr. Salkus. This site, where is that draining to? It's going down West Avenue, or is it going Schoolhouse?
What was the question?
Sewer. The sewer for this site, it's going down West Avenue through that pump station, or is it going to go out?
I'm assuming that it's going into West Avenue, because that's where the infrastructure is for that area. The city redid all of the main sewer lines, which ran down West Avenue to that pump station.
Is there a pump station on Schoolhouse near this site?
That I couldn't tell you. And if we look at the drawings, which
I couldn't find it, that's why I'm asking.
yeah, there should be something. There should be a utility page on the drawings that should indicate where the sewer lines are going.
What I'm asking is, with this problem that's been at Gloria Commons for years, and the addition of 342 700 plus toilets flushing, something's going to happen over here. And if necessary, why couldn't this stuff from this site be pumped out the other way to Schoolhouse?
We'll tell you it's a general policy of the city to, when they approve projects, if it's at all feasible for something to be engineered and something can travel through gravity, that is preferred. So if this site, I don't recall this site providing any on-site pumps, so that's telling me when I look at the plans that this is a gravity sewer system. So without the plan in front of me, I don't know if it's traveling out to Schoolhouse or West Avenue. Based on the location of the main structures, they're much closer to West Avenue. So I'm assuming that's where it's going. It's gravity fed into West Avenue.
Can the applicant clarify that?
Yes, thank you. Just to address that, it's a gravity plan that goes through to West Avenue. That's item number one. Item number two, to address Tom's comment, the Sewer Commission had a public hearing on this. Their consultant, Ray Macaluso from Westcott and Mapes, reviews the plans. They unanimously approve the plans based on this, the piping as we've shown. And again, David has already addressed the concerns that the neighbors have had about this, smell. I understand it, Carl. I understand that's a concern, but it's not a zoning concern. It's a concern of the Public Works Department. It's a concern of the Sewer Commission. If there's a problem with the sewer, they have to take care of it. But these plans were reviewed by the Sewer Commission and they were approved by the Sewer Commission. And your initial comment as to the gentlemen from the police department that are here tonight, they're here tonight because unlike the Sewer Commission that unilaterally right from the get-go approved this project, the Police Commission denied the project. We then supplied them with more information, we revised the plans, and we discussed off-site improvements. They came back to you tonight and spoke to you tonight because they've amended their prior denial of the project. So there's a big difference there. So I hope that addresses that question.
Okay, so this is a public hearing, and if anyone would like to speak on the issues brought up tonight, please address your comments to the commission. Keep them to 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Paula Sherko, 26 Lucius Court, Gloria Commons. With the study that was done with the traffic on Schoolhouse Road, was there a study done on West Ave? Because the problem is a lot of people will now turn around and use West Ave instead of Schoolhouse Road when they get out of work. I was just wondering if a study was done on West Ave. Thank you.
Maria San Marco, 27 Lucius Court, Milford. Two things concern me, what Mrs. Sherko just said, the West Avenue light. If anybody goes down that road regularly, you stand at the light for West Avenue, Route 1, 3 cars go through, the light changes again. If we're adding 522 cars at a minimum, how long are you going to have to stay at that light before you can get through, especially us coming out of our development and turning left? That is like an S-curve. We have tractor trailers coming down there, and you're adding a ton more traffic. As far as the pump station goes, I walk the complex 4 times a day, from front to back, and I walk West Avenue. There is no smell where the new units have been built. That's where I live. My windows are open down that end. The smell is at the front, at the pump station. If you stand across the street at West Avenue, it hits you in the face. I please invite you to stand across the street and to come to our clubhouse and to smell what we smell on a daily basis. Please investigate this further and don't just take a rubber stamp approach to this. The people sitting to our right here, they don't care if we smell a worse smell every day for the rest of our lives. They just want to see their project built. Stand up for the little guy. Thank you.
My name is Carol Penta. I live at 21 Lucius Court, and my question is directed to our police officers. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there is a second exit, I believe, from this project onto West Avenue near Grinnell Street. And just human nature being what it is, if you have that backlog of traffic, even with a light onto the Schoolhouse Road, people are going to be inclined to use the West Avenue exit. So is that road capable of handling that amount of traffic every day? And has there ever been any study as to what the actual, I know the posted speed limit is 25 miles an hour, but has there ever been a study to see actually how many people go 25 miles an hour in a school zone? I guess that's it. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Barbara Solomon. I live at 30 Lucius Court, also in Gloria Commons. I was here at the last meeting as well, and I remember board members addressing specifically about the traffic as to whether or not when the study was done, if it was done when school was in session or whether it was not in session when it was completed. and whether a study was done on the corner of Schoolhouse and the Post Road, and they said it was not included. That's what I have to say about the traffic study. The other part of it is they keep bringing up the thing about our sewers not being connected properly in the new construction. That is true, but there was a woman who was here who had lived in the area for many, many years. If I'm not mistaken, she either said like 36 or 46 years that she was in the neighborhood, and they have continually had the odor from the pump station. So when you add that number of units, that many flushes, loads of wash, dishwashers, whatever else is happening, it's going to overtax it. I don't understand how they approved it. I'm certainly not saying that that they didn't do their jobs. Well, maybe I am saying they didn't do their jobs properly. I think they looked at it, they approved it. It's good for the town because it's going to be revenue for the town. I understand that. But you have to take into consideration the people that are already living there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Kligger. I live at 33 Audubon Close. With respect to the traffic on Schoolhouse Road, I'm not an expert, and we haven't had an expert study done, and we don't know much about data gathering and data interpretation as far as traffic studies go. But what we do know, because we live in the neighborhood, is what Schoolhouse Road can bear and what it can't bear in a qualitative sense. What I've attempted to do is take some photos of traffic on Schoolhouse Road, which I wanted to enter into the record, if I may. In the handout, first of all, those photos were shot between 5:10 and 5:40 p.m. This past Wednesday, September 15th. Photos 1 and 2 show traffic on Bick Drive, also known as Subway. The lead car in those photos is, in photo 1, is a little closer. It's about 10 to 15 feet from the intersection of West Avenue and Schoolhouse Road, and in the other shot is about 20 feet from the intersection. And you can see the traffic heading up that way, and it's all heading toward the proposed driveway. Now in photos 3 and 4, you see traffic on Schoolhouse Road coming from US 1 Bridgeport Avenue, right in the vicinity of the proposed driveway. In fact, in photos 3 and 4, those vehicles have just passed the area where the proposed driveway is going to be. And you can see how heavy that traffic gets over there without having to put another driveway feeding in and out there, which is going to have a substantial percentage of the resident vehicle traffic from that project. Photos 5 and 6 show a view that somebody would see looking to the left, pulling out of the proposed driveway. What the pictures don't show very well, unfortunately, is that there is a hill that oncoming traffic must ascend, and then it it comes down and at you, and some of that traffic moves very, very quickly. Also, my neighbor who is unable to be here tonight, Mr. Albert Leeper, who lives at 4 Manor House Lane, went out to Schoolhouse Road with his video camera and did some shooting, video shooting at different vantage points on Schoolhouse Road, including within the immediate area of the proposed driveway. His video was done between 8 and 8:30 in the morning, this past Friday morning, the 15th of September. What I have here, and again, I don't know what the protocol is, I have the original video.
You have to speak into the microphone, or you won't be recorded unless you speak into the microphone. Yeah, you can use mine if you like. Okay,
I have the original video, which Mr. Leeper prepared. That is the original. Okay. Also, his written explanation, including a map in there, which shows the vantage points that Mr. Leeper videoed from. There's also an audio component to this. He narrates it. And I have 10 copies of the video. Just leave it here. Just leave it here. And again, we don't. Again, we're not in the business of performing traffic studies in the sense that we don't gather data and analyze it. But when all the data is gathered and everything's done, we're the folks that are going to have to live in the neighborhood and deal with that traffic, and we're quite familiar with it. We're quite familiar with it. And Mr. Leeper and I would hope that you would look at the video at least to get a qualitative sense of why an additional driveway feeding a fairly high volume of cars into Schoolhouse Road is going to be unsuitable, is going to be very problematic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Joseph Bogdan, 3 Audubon Close in Milford. I won't beat to death the fact that board members have asked for additional traffic counts and residents at intersections that weren't done in Teagan Bond's original proposal. But the police report also does not address the issue that I mentioned in a previous meeting of contiguous sidewalks on Schoolhouse Road or West Avenue. At present, there are sidewalks, but they're not contiguous. You're going to have school children from a project this size, and safety in getting them to school would be paramount with sidewalks. That wasn't mentioned. The other thing that neither of Milford's public safety agencies, fire or police, mention, again, is any concern or an emergency plan involving the Iroquois pipeline and having so many units on top of it. I would urge the board to maybe look for an independent consultant on this, as the PIPA recommendations, the Pipeline and Informed Planning Alliance recommendations, are low density or no density residential developments over pipelines. And I think that should be investigated by the board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Menendez of 32 Lucius Court in Milford. My vision of the traffic is somewhat different from the officers and the proponents. I believe that there is no way around. Cars are going to increase, They're going to be parking for up to 500 cars. So it's going to be congestion. Now, of course, that improvements on the road and the traffic lights would help, but it would turn the problem from a nightmare to a bad situation. The other thing is in the 340 something units, 340 something toilets, and I hope that they are not used in unison. Because the traffic down below is going to be awful, and it's going to overwhelm the station that we have that is already in bad conditions. And I believe that if it is gravity, the way that it's going to come down, that the most logical and economic point to be from that building is going to be to that station. Other stations are going to be farther away, and we're in a low elevation. In any other direction, they're going to have to go up. And the third point is the density of the population increasing so much, more than double. And we all know when density increase, crime increase, and accidents increase. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Frank Ellison, 8 Lucius Court in Glory Commons. I have a question first that I want to ask the board. On behalf of a lot of the citizens of Milford and myself, I've been working very closely with our State Senator Gail Schlossberg's office, as well as our Representative Kim Rose's office. We've been emailing each other back and forth, and although Kim Rose could not be here today, her assistant told me that they took a collection of all the concerns of the people that had been opposed to this project from the very beginning, and that it was going to be compiled, and that a letter was going to be sent to be received by the members of the board today before this meeting. So her office told me to please bring that question up because they said it would happen, and they thought that her response to the project, and at least reading her concerns on behalf of the people that live here, and I'm not sure whether or not the board has received that information from Kim Rose's office or not.
Mr. Vice Chair, can I address that? I went to the Planning and Zoning office at approximately 6:15 this evening, and there was no receipt of such materials.
Okay, well, the person I was working with, and just to, if you want to verify it, was her assistant, Jason, who said that you would have had the letter today. Okay. Secondly, in regarding to the traffic, I know the officers have probably been caught up in as much traffic and problems as anybody, but we've all had traffic problems. And I really want to put the scope of this back into everyone's mind here, because we're talking about it as, well, we're going to put a traffic light up, and probably that will ease something a little bit. But think about an accident that you've either been behind, hopefully not in. Think of a fire truck that had to pass, or an ambulance that has to get by. Think of rush hour traffic when there's only one street. And we're only talking mostly about Schoolhouse Road here. We're not really talking about West Avenue. West Avenue is an even narrower street than Schoolhouse Road. West Avenue is going to be absolutely, definitively, and negatively impacted by the size and scope of this project, based on the information provided to us by the developers. Think of what it's like if you're caught in traffic and there's 5 cars thrown into that. Think of what it's like if there's 10 cars thrown into that. 20 cars seems pretty bad. Think of 100 extra vehicles. By their own statistics, they told us at the last meeting, this project, and I don't know if the officers are aware of this, is going to add 21 or 2,200 more vehicles to this very small and tight area. Think for just 2 seconds. If you think 20 cars or 100 cars or adding 500 cars is a lot, you're talking about 2 very narrow streets that you're going to be adding to daily, probably during rush hour with the school there. Forget about the construction and all that's going to tie up everything. On very narrow roads, 2,100 or 2,200 added to this area. That is almost, hard to imagine. But that's what you may, if you approve this project, okay for everybody who lives in that area to say, deal with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Your 3 minutes is up.
All right, one other comment if I may, please. It's not about the traffic, because I want to address that because I was told to.
Well, really the traffic was the issue that the public hearing was left open. But thank you for your comments. We heard you on a number of occasions, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
I'll be brief. Cliff Mason, 1427 Naugatuck Avenue, Milford. A point was brought up previously, which I don't think was totally resolved. As I understand Attorney Lynch, the owner of the property is the Kingdom of God. And as I understand, Grillo Services LLC is agent to the owner in behalf of a project to be constructed. What I am concerned about is indemnifying this project both on the short term and on the long term, since we have significant risks associated with this property, not only with the pipeline, but also with the pump station and other issues that potentially will show up. I want to know who is responsible during construction, post-construction, and 30 years out when the low-income, moderate-income portion of the project terminates. So I'm hopeful that Attorney Lynch can explain to me that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so it's fair to say that we can close the public hearings. Anyone have a problem with that?
Unless you want unless the applicant wants to rebut any of the comments.
Pardon me.
Yeah, I will be brief. So let me wrap up 3 nights worth of discussion here. We started off by telling you we think this is a great project. We stand by it. I am also reminding you that this application is brought to you under the specific provisions of a state statute that says that absent a finding of specific health and safety issues that override the state mandated desire for a community such as Milford to promulgate and approve projects that encourage the development of affordable housing, not low-income housing. And that really galls me when I hear that, because I spend a great amount of time in my presentations talking about the fact that these projects are not low income. They are designed to provide young individuals and individuals that have family incomes of $50,000 to $60,000 with a chance to live in Milford and live in a nice project like this, a brand new project. And hearing terms such as low income really are buzzwords that really gall me. And I'm going to stand here and state that for the record. I'm going off base, but I think it's something that needs to be said, because there's an undertone to each of these applications. The people that come up to the microphone, there's an undertone there. And I've lived in Milford my entire life. I've lived here for 62 years, and I'm proud of this town too. And when I hear some of the comments that are made at these zoning hearings, it really is disheartening. And hopefully it's disheartening to you as well to have to listen to it. If traffic is the issue, the very first night that I appeared before you, I said it's a non-issue. cases that have reviewed applications such as this, courts, Judge Berger, in his review of cases such as this, when traffic is emanated from a project, what the courts look at in terms of public health and safety is sight lines. That's what creates a public safety situation. Additional traffic from this project, and Mr. Ellison is correct, I said 2,100 day trips from this project. But I also said that if this property was developed in accordance with the zoning regulations as they are in place right now, that 7,000 cars would emanate from this property if an office building was built. So our contention to you is that the traffic that is generated here is lesser of an impact. Your own police department has now reviewed this and has issued you a report, and we feel that we can stand by the recommendations in that report. And I ask that you approve this project based upon that report, based upon the approval of this project by the Sewer Commission, and based upon the review of these plans by the Fire Marshal. Those are the three entities in this town that are designed and are professionals, and their job is to review plans, review projects, and provide for the public health and safety. And that's what this project meets, that standard. So with all of that, that's the conclusion of my comments to you. I'd ask that you approve this application, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So the public hearing will be officially closed. Is there any comments from the board? Go ahead.
This is a question for staff for Mr. Sulkus. And correct me if I am not allowed to ask this question. We've had a lot of reports. We've had a traffic report. We've had a sewer report. We've had a fire report. Have we had any report from the Iroquois pipeline as to what they feel the impact on their pipeline is going to be?
I'm doing this from memory, but I believe the applicant testified that their plans had to be reviewed and approved by Iroquois because of the right-of-way that they have through the site.
Do we have a copy of that report?
I would have to check the file. That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall having one. Do we have one?
Can I address that?
Yeah, please.
At the last meeting, Rick, I don't know if you were here at the last meeting. I went through the Garden Homes management case versus this board, and that was an issue in that case. And you know, same thing with that case with here is the fact that any construction has to be approved and reviewed. They have to come out to site. And in the Bick Drive case, there was questions about blasting because the property is a rock ledge. And if you recall, Fred Mesha testified that the property here is gravel and sand. There would be no blasting necessary. There's no construction over the pipeline, but whenever you do construction within a certain parameter of the pipeline, they have to come out and oversee. It's almost like a, with the gas company, what is it called before you dig or something like that. Now, we're not going to be digging in the easement, but they will be put on notice and they have to come out to the site when the construction is done.
Thank you. So I would entertain a motion from the commission, and I would remind the commission that you are able to put conditions on the motion. If somebody wanted to consider adding sidewalks as there was a concern, or whatever else you felt you wanted to put on, and see if the developer would acquiesce. But we can have a motion either way to approve or deny.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this project with one condition, is that instead of the 30% of affordable units as the minimum in the state statute, I would like to make a recommendation that we approve this project with 40% affordable housing.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, if you're making a motion for approval, We have the recommendation from the police department that it be contingent on the installation of the traffic signal.
Thank you.
Amend my recommendation, to approve the project with two conditions. One is that the traffic light,
The traffic signal.
traffic signals are installed, and it's raised to 40% affordable housing.
And the other city department requirements as
And any
stated
other
in their
city,
letters.
requirements.
Do you have that clearly?
Maybe a slight summary. Mr. Grant motioned to approve with condition of 40% affordable housing rather than 30, and upon installation of the traffic signal recommended by Milford PD, as well as any other city departmental recommendations.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, looking for another motion. So, Mr. Sulkus, without a motion, where do we stand?
You don't have to vote on this evening. So I would recommend that you think about what you want to do, and you can vote on it at your next meeting. You close the public hearing, which was important to do, and your next step would be to vote on it. You have time to vote on it. Any motion that the board makes in the future should be in the affirmative, and then if you don't want it, then you are voting against the affirmative. Don't make a motion to deny. We've had guidance from the city, attorney on how we do the motions. So think about that.
Okay, without objection, we will carry this forward to the next meeting for a vote. And if we can find Mr. Marlowe. I'd like to take a 2-minute recess to allow the crowd to leave so that we could continue our other business as well as do some work with the videotaping.
Good evening. If we could I would ask everyone to please step outside with other conversations. We have a couple other items on the agenda to finish up. Thank you. Excuse me, sir. That public hearing is closed, so thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, on to item G, liaison reports. Is there any liaison reports? None. Regulations?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nichols.
I just want to reiterate that I did attend the police commission meeting, and this 553 was discussed at a minimal. However, other 830Gs are coming down the pike. It was very interesting, and Chief Mello indicated that he's short-staffed, and he's having to take officers from the field to do dispatch-type work. But the lieutenant sort of cleared it up, stating that it did not affect his department. Lieutenant Chilo is in charge of the administration and traffic division with Sergeant Kranak. So that's that. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Regulations Subcommittee, Mr. Grant.
Nothing at this time.
I would like to, Mr. Grant, just add to this 1 second. Last meeting, we approved regulation change for Metro Star, and there was a date put out there, and we'd like to correct that date, that the regulation changes actually occur on the 11th of September. Not, I think it was the 4th or the 5th that was reported.
That's correct.
So do we have to vote on that, Mr. Solkis?
No, you just have to announce it for the record. That was technically a Scrivener's error.
I was going to use that word, but it sounded...
I'd
Yes,
just
Mr.
like to add, the subcommittee, regulation subcommittee, we're short one person, since Mr. Lutz has resigned from the board. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. Thank you.
And just to throw a plug in there, it is actually a good subcommittee to serve on. I think that it gives a chance for a little more in-depth at looking at the regulations. So if someone is interested, please contact Mr. Grant. Approval of minutes for September 5th. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second? Second. Any discussion? Mr. Barone?
No, not second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. No problem. Thank you. Staff report, Mr. Solkis?
None this evening.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? We're good. Thank you.